Welcome to Show-Off Showdown! In this series, the fighters are called Show-Offs, and this is the series for the Show-Off Showdown! Now let's meet the Show-Offs for tonight's showdown, shall we? Tonight, we have a battle of the monstrously giant, ferocious, flying reptiles! One made it into Smash, and the other smashes everything! That's right, Ridley versus Rodan!
Oh, and by the way, while researching this battle, Mechazilla 101 and I were debating on which incarnation of Rodan would be most fair to put against Ridley for this battle, and the one we decided to go with was the video game version of Rodan. We'll be happy to answer your questions after the battle is finished.
I put links to the analysis on both characters in the description below. Now without further ado, it's time for the Show-Offs to Showdown!
Get ready for the next battle.
Oh boy, here come the butthurt Godzilla fanboys. Again.
Kill yourself. The fuck? Please kill yourself. The fuck? You should really kill yourselves. The fuck? Please kill yourself. The fuck? You should really kill yourself.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. The Godzilla fanbase really is that toxic. And that's just scratching the surface!
Now, in case you don't remember what I said at the beginning, I said we were specifically using the video game incarnation of Rodan for this battle, as it was arguably the most fair incarnation to put against Ridley. Now, if it makes anyone feel better, if Ridley was fighting a full-on composite Rodan, then the outcome would have most likely ended like this. Okay, now before people start complaining about the size of the characters during the battle sequence, please note that this animation was not a simulation. If you have any questions about the animation, then please ask the Pigeon Return Studios, as he's the one who animated this battle. Okay, now that we've gotten all that out of the way, let's discuss how and why Ridley wins this epic high-fly fighting showdown. First off, let's discuss who is more skilled and experienced. Now, I think it's obvious that Rodan holds the experience advantage, as like Godzilla, he's been around for millions of years, which is definitely much greater than Ridley's level of experience. However, despite Rodan's experience advantage, Ridley is technically smarter than Rodan, and likely more strategic too. But aside from that, Ridley and Rodan are both very skilled in close quarters combat, which should even out the odds of this category. Now let's discuss strength. Okay, now before everyone just blindly assumes that Rodan is stronger just because he's much bigger than Ridley, I think most of you should know this by now, but size doesn't matter. And you know what they say, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. In fact, believe it or not, Ridley and Rodan's level of physical strength are surprisingly a lot closer than you think. Some of us may know, Ridley can lift and carry around Godzilla with little to no struggle, who weighs roughly around 90,000 tons. Now, as for Ridley, he once lifted and threw 89,948 tons with total ease.
Holy crap, that's close!
However, as almost evenly matched as this is just lifting strength. Now, when it comes to striking strength, That's where these two pack an even bigger punch. Not only can Ridley destroy entire starships with just a single swipe of his claw, but he's even capable of hurting and damaging Samus, who is unfazed by a mountain-busting blast. Heck, he's even fought against Hyper Mode Samus, and is one of the few opponents that could damage her, which potentially puts his striking power at roughly planet level, and the same level could apply to his durability, as he is unfazed by most of Samus's weapons, and even survived hits from Samus in her gravity fusion suit. Now, very similar things can be said about Rodan, as he was physically capable of fighting on par with King Ghidorah, and tanked Ghidorah's gravity beams, and considering that Ghidorah was capable of destroying Venus, this should mean that Ridley and Rodan have very similar levels of striking power and durability. Now let's discuss the character's levels of destructive capability. Now don't worry, we're not going to use Ridley's title as the cunning god of death as an excuse or anything like that. Now for starters, let's take a look at Ridley's casual or bare minimum firepower. With his plasma breath, uncharged, Ridley once casually destroyed a mountain in 960 times gravity. Now an average mountain weighs about 150 billion tons, and if the gravity was 960 times stronger than Earth's normal gravity, and that mountain was 960 times heavier than a regular mountain, this means that mountain weighs roughly 144 trillion tons. After doing some research, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it takes roughly 248 megatons of TNT to destroy a mountain. So if we multiply that by 960, this means Ridley's bare minimum firepower is the equivalent of 238,080 megatons of TNT. That's the equivalent of over 4,760 Tsar nukes. And once again, Ridley casually destroyed that mountain with little effort. So just imagine how much firepower he can dish out if he actually put his full effort into it, or even in his Omega form, which is far more powerful than both his base and meta forms. In fact, Meta Ridley has even shown planetary levels of destructive capability, or possibly greater. In fact, if we scale him directly to Samus, and say his destructive capability is either close, equal, or superior to some of Samus's most powerful weapons, not only does Samus have a few weapons capable of destroying planets, but her absolute peak of weaponry can even be scaled up to star level. Not only has she beaten Dark Samus, who survived a planet's destruction on top of a dimensional collapse, but her Ice Beam has been shown capable of freezing small stars, and her Omega Beam was said to be capable of wiping out futuristic civilizations, has destroyed Goria, and potentially even capable of destroying entire stars. Now, we're probably being nice to Ridley if we scale him directly to this, so let's just say that the peak of Ridley's destructive capability is at least small star level, or roughly close to star level, which is good considering that Rodan has definitely shown star levels of destructive capability, or possibly greater. So I think it's safe to say that Rodan has at least a slight edge in destructive capability, if not a clear edge. Now, while Rodan does technically have more destructive capability than Ridley, it probably won't do him much good, because there's one massive advantage that Ridley has over Rodan that may ultimately hand him the victory. Not only does Ridley have a wider variety of different attacks and abilities, which you can read more about in the research linked in the description below, but the biggest advantage that Ridley has over Rodan is speed. Now, we're not saying that Rodan is slow, far from it. In fact, Mechazilla 101 has done some of his own estimations with Rodan's speed surge. In one of the stages, there is a river that took Rodan around 4 seconds to cross, and I believe it was the River Thames. While using his critical mass form, it took him roughly 2 seconds to cross the bridge. Overall, if Rodan uses the critical mass form, which is a 2 times multiplier, and then the speed surge, also a 2 times multiplier, Rodan should be 4 times faster than his base form. Rodan's speed should be roughly hypersonic, so with that 4 times multiplier, Rodan should be capable of moving at 15,200 miles per hour or Mach 20 speeds. Now, even if we highball him and say he's massively hypersonic, it still won't be nearly enough, as Ridley has shown to be massively faster than light. Not only is he faster than Samus, who is at least faster than light, but he has dodged point-blank lasers and has even outpaced Samus' ship, which travels at massively faster than light speeds. Clearly, this is far faster than anything Rodan has shown. While Rodan's destructive capability is likely enough to destroy Ridley, it won't really matter since he can't even hit Ridley. In fact, Ridley is so fast, Rodan probably won't even be able to see or comprehend Ridley attacking him. You know what? Let's get metaphorical here for a second. Let's pretend that Ridley is a piranha, one of the smallest but deadliest predators in the sea, and that Rodan is an anaconda, the heaviest constrictor snake in the world. Not only is the piranha so small that the anaconda wouldn't be able to constrict it, but the piranha moves so fast that the anaconda probably wouldn't be able to bite it. The piranha would pretty much dart around the snake, rapidly tearing off chunks until there's not much snake left to fight. Now, comparably, Ridley will most likely blitz Rodan, darting around him and rapidly tearing and/or blasting off chunks of Rodan's body faster than Rodan can react, to the point where there's not much of Rodan left to fight. Now, even if Rodan somehow does land a good hit on Ridley, not only is Ridley's body tough enough to take a hit from Rodan, but he also has a healing factor. Not to mention, Ridley also has a camouflage ability, which is another reason why Rodan wouldn't be able to see Ridley coming and rapidly destroying him faster than he can blink. Now, we could make the argument of a possible debate between Fire Rodan versus Omega Ridley, which are both far more powerful than their base forms, though I highly doubt it'll add much or affect the outcome of this battle regardless. So overall, while these two are very closely matched in terms of fighting skill, strength, and durability, while Rodan may have an edge in experience and destructive capability, but with Ridley's superior intellect and wider combat variety, and definitely his massive speed advantage, Ridley has what it takes to make this giant pteranodon extinct. I think I've said enough. So, in the end, Ridley is now rid of Rodan. The winner of this battle is Ridley. Now, for those of you who are still unsatisfied with the result and would like a rematch, well then let's buff these two up to the max, shall we? If you want to see a full-on composite Rodan going up against a composite Ridley, including his non-canon feats and scales from the new Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, then let me know in the comments below, and we'll see what happens in the future. Oh, and by the way, I'd like to give a very special thanks and shout out to the animator of this battle, the Pigeon Return Studios. Not only that, but I'd also like to personally give a special thanks and shout out to Mechazilla 101 for helping me with all the research on Rodan, and Death Soul 24 for helping me with the research on Ridley. These guys are the team that made this battle possible, and I couldn't have done it without them. So do yourself a favor and go check out their channels and subscribe.
Got any ideas for Show-Off Showdown? Then let me know in the comments below, and hopefully, I just might do them. Now stay tuned for the next episode of Show-Off Showdown!